When you're wrong once, you can be right every single time after. What's shaking? Welcome back to All In. Today we're going to talk about regrets, and maybe not specifically things that you do regret, but things that you will never regret. As we dive into this today, please share this out with at least 3 people because they're going to love to hear exactly what you are today and move to a different level in their life. We don't take sponsorships, promotions, nothing. We grow with your help. All right. Everyone has regrets. At least I think everyone does, except, sometimes me. I'll tell you this as far as things that I regret. Right now, nothing. And there's a reason for that. There have been times in my life where there have been regrets. And those regrets are typically short-lived because I will take those. This is like a bonus for you today. I will take those regrets and shift them into a learning experience. Just like I always see failures as a learning experience, or if I look back and be like, man, I wish I would have done that. However, whenever you look back and you're like, hey, I regret doing that, there's probably something that is on the other side to where you're like, maybe I don't regret doing that at all because I learned this, or I met this person, or now this person's out of my life, or maybe I got a better job out of it. If I hadn't have made that choice that in the moment really, really sucked, and I might have regretted for the next 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever, in the moment it sucked. But then after that, man, I'm glad I did it. Because you can use it as a learning experience so that you never do it again. You can... individuals who don't like to be wrong, right? There's this thing that I like to look at from a perspective that when you're wrong once, you can be right every single time after, right? Isn't that cool? And the only way typically to that you actually become right is if you're wrong at some point in your life. So regretting things is okay as long as you can shift them quickly. That's the key. As long as you can shift them quickly into a learning experience to provide for all of the future scenarios that might relate back to that. So when I say that right now I don't have any regrets, that is 100% true. Right now, in this moment, I have no regrets. Have I had regrets? Yes, absolutely. For a short time period until I was able to apply those learnings to a future scenario. That's the cool thing about this, is you can shift this and say, what did I learn out of this? Take the emotions and the learnings and move forwards, but what happened just stays right where it was in the past at this point, because you cannot fear the past at all. You cannot even fear the present. You can't fear the things that are gone or the things that are happening right now. The only things that you can possibly fear is the future, and one way to curb that fear, to eliminate that fear of the future things that you're thinking may or may not happen, is to take a look at your regrets. And maybe regrets are directly tied to fear, right? The past is directly tied to the future. But maybe you can take your regrets and say, what did I learn out of this? And then you can apply that towards eliminating fear of something else, because at the very least, you now know in that type of situation what not to do. So you know that going into another situation like that in the future, you will already be in a better place to succeed, to break through, to attack whatever it is in your life. That's cool. That's really cool. There's 3 things, though, that I feel that you'll never regret. And we're going to talk about those. The first one that I really feel is traveling. Because it's not so much, traveling overseas or to other countries. I mean, I don't think you would regret that either. It's really having to do with changing your environment, even just for a short period of time. Because when you're surrounded by the same things day in and day out, you don't have fresh perspective because it's the same stimuli that's coming in at you every single day. Now, this has to do with your surroundings of a job, your surroundings of friends, your surroundings of people in general, the same people around, the surroundings of even the same restaurants you may go to. Traveling is one of the easiest ways to pattern interrupt the environment that you're in right now, and to allow you to gain perspective and pull yourself out of that position, out of that situation, and be able to reflect and be like, oh, I feel pretty good when I go somewhere else. Or you know what? I just learned something new where I'm at right now because my environment changed, because I'm traveling, and I can take that back to my environment that I'm in and day out and make it better. It's pretty amazing. And plus, I mean, if you live in, let's just be real, right? I live in Chicago. I also love traveling in the winter months because it's freaking dreary here when there's snow outside and it's gray. You know, the sun does good things. That's like medical too, with vitamin D and everything else, which, by the way, I'm a big fan of vitamin D. Just moving out of your environment for even just a time period is a great opportunity to reset, even if you have to work. Even if it's traveling for work, it's still something different. And the only way you grow is when you have different things that are happening. You have variety. It's actually a basic human need, is variety and change. And the only way to create change in your life is to have variety. That's just how it goes. You have to shake things up. And one of the easiest ways to do that, which is the first thing that you will not regret, is traveling. So put that on your books. You should travel. I'm going to challenge you at least once a year, somewhere. And even if you don't have a lot of money, you could probably drive someplace this year, especially if you're an entrepreneur building your business. It's easy to get head down. And I had done this for so long. It's easy to go head down and just try to plow through things for a long, sustained period of time. But it's not, this doesn't have anything to do with burnouts. This has everything to do with breaking those thought patterns so that now you can go back to it because you're still processing those things you need to for the business in the back of your head while you have new things around you. It'll give you a fresh perspective. This has nothing to do with burnout. This has everything to do with just changing the things around you, giving yourself variety. And traveling will do that easily. The second thing that you're never going to regret in life is going to the gym or getting fit, being healthy. Right? It was interesting because a few weeks back, there was even something from that CNN posted that said, hey, you know, the biggest cause in secondary morbidity from COVID was obesity. That was the second biggest cause. And it's like, hello. Yep, I'm knocking on the mic. Hello. There was a study from the University of New York way back in April of 2020. So you're talking like 2 years ago now that identified, because New York had the biggest outbreaks, right? They had the biggest outbreaks around, saying that, you know, outside of age, because it was the first thing, it's like, is the person 80 years old or older as far as whether you're going to have a high chance of death or not? It was a yes or a no. And then if they answered no, it's like, okay, is the person obese? That was the second biggest cause of morbidity, of death with COVID-19. It had nothing to do with the virus whatsoever, because the virus is an inflammatory disease. But the first biggest reason was just age. Naturally, your immune system does not function as well, especially when you get north of 80 years old. It's just how life is. You know, your body winds down on things. It can't respond as quickly. That's just common sense. The other common sense thing is that being fat is not healthy. It is not healthy. It doesn't give you longevity. So when you get sick, it's harder for you, no matter what it is, COVID, flu, cold, whatever, it's harder for you to fight these things off because your body is already inflamed. So going to the gym or being healthy, being fit, putting the right food in your mouth is something that you will never, ever regret. You will be thanking yourself time and time and time again over this, because I fully believe that there are two things that almost every human being can control in their life, and that's what they put in their mouths for food and how much physical activity they have. Even for individuals that, you know, are wheelchair ridden because they're too large and can't do that anymore. They're on oxygen, right? They might have physical ailments to where they can't control that. I get that. That's a medical issue, right? But they can still control what's going into their mouths. I've seen individuals, and this is not going to be a popular statement, this is controversial right here, right? I've still seen very large people sitting in a wheelchair, right, with emphysema or CPOD or something like that, having troubles breathing, and they're still eating Chips Ahoy cookies. It's not even like home baked stuff from scratch. It's this processed shit that they keep putting in their mouths. And don't get me wrong, because I still will eat a Twinkie here and there. I had a deep fried Oreo at a carnival, right? Back at Labor Day weekend this past year, whatever. But I have that once a year. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking somebody who is in this wheelchair scenario that has all these medical issues. They cannot control the amount of physical activity they have, but they sure as hell can control what they're putting in their mouths. So one of those two things, or at least both, 99% of people can control. You will never regret going to the gym. It also has to do with number one, with traveling. Remember what I said the reason for traveling is changing your environment. Now, I have a room that's dedicated at my house because actually going to a gym for me is a barrier for me. I noticed that a long time ago. So if that's the case, that's all good. But I get my social interaction from everybody else in different environments. But going to the gym can also cause a lot of people, because this is awesome. You get around other people that are trying to go after the same goals as you, and it just lifts you up. It's like the Disney World effect, the Disneyland effect. Everybody's pretty freaking happy at Disneyland and Disney World. Right? Have you ever noticed that? The whole place feels lighter? Yeah, because everybody's pretty happy, except for maybe the ones with the screaming toddler in the wheelchair, the wheelchair, the stroller, right? That they had to rent for $150 and that's it. But that's whatever. Besides that, you will be happy by just getting around other people that are also going after the same goals, because now you feel like, oh, I'm not the only one. And maybe at some point you become disciplined. You're like, maybe I'm going to do this at home. And that seems like a better way. I save myself probably like 4 hours of time a week, and my time is valuable by working out at home. It's just a choice that I made, and that's all good for me. For you, you will never regret going to the gym or being fit or healthy or changing that environment and getting around people that want to do the same things as you, that have those same goals. So the first thing you never regret is traveling. The second thing you never regret is going to the gym or being healthy, getting fit. The third thing that you will never, ever regret is chasing your dreams. You hear me? You will never, ever regret chasing your dreams. Now, I will give you some fair warning on this. It will be tough, because there's so many setbacks, there's so many reasons not to. It's called complacency. There's so many reasons to stay where you're at right now, and they seem that they're good. They always seem that they're good. Especially as you start to push the boundaries and you start to see, oh, wait, what about my friends? Because they keep saying that I've changed. They keep saying that I'm different now. Because I got a better job and I'm making more money, so I'm buying nicer things. I can afford nicer things. I like the nice things. I'm going after my dreams. But in order to actually function in the world that I'm in, the job, there's an expectation that I show up professional. And for me, professional is, wearing a Hugo Boss suit, or maybe it's, actually wearing a tie every day or some nice shoes rather than some Vans or some Converse or something like that, or some Nikes. Maybe that's what it is for you, but all of your friends are wearing those things every day, which is nothing wrong with that, but now they start to look down on you because you may be doing better than them. But at the same time, you're chasing your dreams. There's a whole episode I did as far as your circle today might not be your circle tomorrow. Go back and listen to that one, because it'll encourage you around this specific thing. But as you keep pushing higher and higher, you can actually inspire and encourage those that are around you to continue to push and go after their dreams too. That you will ultimately be happier. And remember at the very beginning when I talked about regrets for for a time period, for a short time period, and how the things that I've regretted in life have been for a brief moment. This is one of those things that you might actually feel that way here and there when you push to the next level and people start to fall out of your life. Is you might feel one moment, it's like, man, that dude that I grew up with, that girl that I went to university with, college with, was my best friend forever. But now look at all these other things that are available to me, because now I feel like I'm fulfilling my purpose. Everything that I wanted, everything that I wrote down 10 years ago that I wanted to do with my life is finally coming to pass. and it's because I decided to chase my dreams. You might need a little reset like that for this last one, because you will never regret that. Write down things that you want for your life, keep it somewhere. Some people do vision boards to keep an eye on what they're going after in life. You know, you can have a picture of a family up there, you can have a car if that's something you've always wanted, you know, an exotic car. Vision boards are really, really powerful. If not, make a list and start writing down just a couple things that you want to see happen, come to pass in your life. And when you start to have those struggles because things that you've enjoyed for so long, people that you've loved having around you for so long, start falling away because of number 3, chasing your dreams. Go back to your list, go back to your vision board, and you'll be like, check, check, check. You're like, wow, I'm so glad I decided to go after my dreams.